You are recording. Thank you.
Today we're going to be learning about traps and vents. In a plumbing trap, a trap is a device shaped with a venting pipe path to retain fluid to prevent sewer gases from entering buildings, while allowing waste material to pass through. In oil refineries, traps are used to prevent hydrocarbons and other dangerous gases and chemical fumes from escaping the drains. In domestic applications, traps are typically U, S, Q, or J-shaped pipe located below or within a plumbing fixture. An S-shaped trap is also known as an S-bend. It was invented by Alexander Cummings in 1775, but became known as the U-bend following the introduction of the U-shaped trap by Thomas Crapper in 1880. Thomas Crapper. The U-bend could not jam, so unlike the S-bend, it did not need an overflow. The most common of these traps is referred to as a P-trap. It is the addition of a 90-degree fitting on the outlet side of a U-bend, thereby creating a P-trap shape oriented horizontally. It is also referred to as a sink trap because it is installed under most sinks. You normally typically will find a trap located at every plumbing fixture. Even in a toilet. You will have a U-trap right inside, built inside of it. Can't really see it, but it's in there.
Kind of him from the side of it, but
Yeah, that's kind
if you didn't know, you wouldn't know what the hell the hump is.
But at every sink, tub, you can't really see the back of the tub because all the stuff is, this is like the wall, this is the tub, this is the floor. You'll have that little ring that sits inside the tub, that's the overflow. And then you'll have your drain here. And then it comes in, connects to that. And then you'll have your trap. So basically what a trap does, it creates a water seal to prevent sewer gases from coming back through and entering the home. So you got your sewer gases here and your water's here. And what that water does is prevents those smells from coming back through your fixtures. Okay. Because of its shape, the trap retains some water after the fixture's use. This water creates an air seal that prevents sewer gases from passing from the drain pipes back into the building. Essentially, all plumbing fixtures, including sinks, bathtubs, and showers, must be equipped with either an internal or external trap. Toilets almost always have an internal trap. Because it is localized low points in the plumbing, sink traps also tend to capture dense objects such as jewelry or coins. Inadvertently drop down the sink. Traps also tend to collect hair, sand, food waste, and other debris, and limit the size of objects that enter the plumbing system, thereby catching oversized objects. For all of these reasons, most traps may be disabled for cleaning or provide a clean-out feature. Basically what it's saying is, you get stuff down in your drain when you brushing your teeth, toothpaste cap or whatever. It also acts as like a catch. So say you get a toothpaste cap, it's gonna sit right here. That way you can just take those nuts off under the trap. They're typically like under your sink, and you can get that toothpaste cap out. That's what a lot of people have problems with clogged drains. They be like, oh, my drain clogged, I need a snake. No, you don't need a snake. You just need to take the trap apart and get whatever you drop down it out. Where volume of water may be rapidly discharged through the trap, a standpipe may be required to minimize impact to other nearby traps.
Standpipe, is that just like a vent pipe for it?
Standpipe is like where I'm pretty sure they're talking about, like for a wash machine. This is like the standpipe. And it has to be, I think, between 30 to 18 inches from off where the trap is. Okay, so basically here's your trap here. And from here, it has to be a max of 18 inches and a minimum of 6 inches from the middle of the pipe to the floor. From here, it has to be a max 30 inches and a minimum. And a minimum of 18 inches. So your standpipe has to be a max of 30 inches and a minimum of 18 inches from here to the top. So basically you have your wash machine here, and you'll have your drain hose going into your standpipe, and you have your water going down. This pipe has to be long enough to enter this trap and go out of the system before it tries to fill this pipe up and come back out.
Oh, the gravity has to be able to push it
Right.
through the trap.
Right. And yeah, like I said, this part is the standpipe. All right, where we at? History. An S-shaped trap is also known as an S-bend. We read that already. Let's go to venting and auxiliary devices. Maintaining the water seal is critical to trap operation. Traps might dry out, and poor venting can suction or blow water out of the trap. This is usually avoided by venting the drain pipe downstream of the trap by being vented to the atmospheres outside the building. The drain lines never operate at a pressure much higher or lower than atmospheric pressure. Plumbing codes usually provide strict limitations on how far a trap may be located from the nearest vent stack. Typically, you cannot pipe in a drain. It has to be 4 times. So let's say you have another toilet. And I'm trying to do this as best as I can.
We're not expecting Picasso.
And you have your drain here, and this is the floor, and then you have your drain coming under the floor, or whatever. And you vent it way over here. So this is the vent right here. Typically, it has to be 4 times the pipe size.
Is that vent just going straight outside?
Yes.
Bend out your roof.
If it's more than so let's say it's 3 inch. We using 3-inch pipe. We typically use 3-inch pipe on toilet. So that's what 12 feet. That's how far away your vent can be away from this drain. So you will start from this drain, and then you will measure all the way over to where your vent starts at. That's how far away your vent can be away from you. If it's more, then you have to use another vent. You would have to probably use a circuit vent here. and then pipe it back into the vent.
Is that a circuit vent?
Yeah,
What is that?
circuit vent is, I'm sorry, a branch vent. Cause this is like your vent stack. This is just a branch.
Okay.
Does having other fixtures on that affect that? Like you got your tub, shower, sink all there?
Well,
Does that change
typically
it?
every fixture has to be vented as well.
Well, I mean, does it stack up the distance or is it still just a minimum?
Yes, it counts for every fixture. If you have a sink here. You have a sink there, and you know it will come up, and you would trap it basically. But you have to vent that.
But they can go up the same vent, right?
Basically, what you do is, I can't really show it like on this. It will come up with a T. Basically, right in here before the trap. So it will come up like that, and then it will trap and ties into that. And then this part here would be the vent. And then you would take this and you would tie this into that. And that's your vent for there. So basically they nowadays in plumbing they want you to vent everything, even the tub. Tub's a little different. Have your tub there, and there's your pipe still going across here. And then, like I said, that's your overflow. That's that little chrome ring that sits there. And then your drain, all that ties into each other. And then you have your trap here. And then it goes out. And then when it goes out, you put your T there and then you vent it right off of it. But everything like this stuff would be behind the wall, you wouldn't even be able to see that, or in the floor. But every fixture has to be vented. A lot of problems that a lot of people are having, and is that certain fixtures aren't being vented. They're being shared. I went to this one lady house where you flush your toilet, and her tub starts gurgling.
Well, that'll be a shitty
It starts
shower.
making a gurgle sound.
And my toilet was doing that like last week.
So basically, what's happening is, okay,
You're gonna have a
you your
shitty
toilet
shower,
here.
so.
It's not uncommon.
I swear I went there to take a video of it and they stopped as soon as I got my phone.
And you just have this pipe coming down, and them two tie together, and it's trapped, and it ties back into there. That tub's not vented. I'm pretty sure this may be vented, but it could be improperly sized. Size may be wrong. So when this water flushes, it's gotta pull air from somewhere. It's got to. That's why you have to vent, because just like if you have like a straw, say you have a straw, and you put your finger on the top of it, and you dip it in some water, that water's gonna sit right there.
Vapor
When
lock.
you let your finger go, that water's gonna rush down right behind, the air's gonna rush down right behind that water and empty that straw. Same if you had like a water bottle. If you hold that bottle upside down full of water, it's gonna go bloop, 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 all the way till it empties. When you take that water bottle, you cut a hole in the bottom of it, it'll pour straight out with no gurgles. So that's basically what's happening here. Once that water flushes out that toilet, it's pulling the air out this track. I mean, it's pulling the seal out this track. So you're lowering the water seal out the track, and you're pulling air from this drain, and it makes that sound. And you're losing your trap seal. So then you start smelling sewer gases after a while that come through the tub. So that's what's happening. It's very common in households where they use one vent for an entire bathroom, where the normally it's the bathroom vanity, because it's the most easiest to vent. You have a sink, and normally for a sink, I'll show you the side of it. You have your drain here, and then you have your T there. And then there's your vent there. Here's your wall. The pipe comes through the wall, and then it traps. And they'll use that one, may use 2-inch, they may use 1.5-inch pipe and PVC to vent that entire bathroom. And what that does is, they claim it vents the entire bathroom, but what it does is, you're creating a gurgle sound throughout the entire bathroom, and it's gasping for air from your tub and from your toilet. Alright. So basically we say where traps are typically located, traps are basically located at every plumbing fixture. I'll get to wet and dry vents. Okay, when a vent cannot be provided, codes may allow the use of an air admittance valve instead. These devices avoid negative pressure in the drain pipe by venting room air into the drain pipe behind the trap. A Chicago loop is another alternative. When a trap is installed on a fixture that is not routinely used, such as a floor drain, the eventual evaporation of the water in the trap must be considered. In these cases, a trap primer may be installed. These are devices that automatically recharge traps with water to maintain their water seal. Trap primers. You typically will find a trap primer in a floor drain. So you have like a shower floor, maybe in like maybe in like a disabled person's home, they have a shower drain, and in the floor, you'll have your pipe coming down with your trap. And I'll explain it to you like it wasn't never explained to me about trap. So then you'll have like, say like your toilet is over here. And your water line for your toilet is going across and ties into that. So then you'll have a pipe coming from your water line going directly into your trap primer. What it does is, your trap primer will probably be like right here. So
It's like a float switch.
it detects negative pressure. When it detects negative pressure, like say you flush the toilet, the water starts rushing. It detects negative pressure, and then it starts flowing through the trap primer, and it'll keep water in this seal. Because you typically don't keep water in a floor drain. You know what I mean? Like, it'll evaporate over time. So when it evaporates, it gets low. The water gets low. And then all the sewer gases will come through. But what this does is we use the toilet a lot. You flush the toilet all the time. So when you flush the toilet, it detects that negative pressure and then starts sending water through this water line and into your trap primer. It doesn't matter how much water it does produce, because it'll basically just go down the drain, but it'll raise this seal back up so that you won't get any sewer gases. That's what the trap primer is. When a trap is installed on a fixture that is not routinely used, such as a floor drain, the eventual evaporation of the water in the trap must be considered. In these cases, a trap permit may be installed. These are devices that automatically charge traps with water to maintain their water system. That's basically it.
What's the difference between the wet vent and a dry vent?
Yeah, the wet vent and the dry vent. Okay. In the basement, you know, you have your main drain line. You have your sewer line. Then you have your drain stack. That basically comes up and then branches off to pick up different fixtures. Okay, and this line come over. And then on this level, you may have another bathroom, like maybe that's the first floor. And then you may have another bathroom that has, sink, toilet. Okay, a wet vent is a vent that can be used to remove waste and to provide air. Typically, it's normally like on the upper levels. You'll have your drains here, and then you'll have your vent here. This part of the drain would be the wet vent, because you can get water to come down into this line to act as a drain. This will all be sloped. All vents are normally sloped a quarter inch per foot or 1/8 inch per foot. I think it's quarter inch per foot with 1.25 inch, 1.5 inch piping, and 1/8 inch per foot when you get to like 2 and 3 inch piping. It has to be sloped because everybody knows the term, all poop rolls downhill. So if it even when it rains, it acts as a wet vent. So you got your vent that's going out the house, and it rains, it gets wet. But typically it doesn't get wet. It just acts as air. It sucks in the air so the drain can operate properly. So that's basically what a wet vent is. A wet vent is a vent that typically has soil running through it, soil material running through it. A dry vent let's say you're in your basement, you'll have a line going up. And then right next to it, you'll have another line going up. This is your soil stack. This is your vent stack. So you'll have your waste draining into basically that line. But then, once you're venting, it won't typically go back into the sewer waste. You can just pipe it back into the vent stack. And this vent typically stays dry. You don't have to tie it back into the soil stack, and the soil stack as a wet vent. You can tie it back into the vent stack. So basically it stays dry, it never gets wet, it never has waste in it. The only thing that gets it wet is rain. When it rains, water goes down through the pipe. So it's typically always a wet vent, but typically it's not. This will be considered as a dry vent because it pipes itself separately and it only connects to vent pipe. So that's the difference between a wet stack and a dry stack. So it's typically a dry stack, it's piped by itself.
So a wet stack has everything tied into, well, a dry stack has just air.
Yep. I've actually did some commercial work. I've done a lot of, most of my career is commercial. We had to do a pipe that was kind of similar to that, but this is another example of like a dry vent and a wet vent. So we had 11 floors, and we had to pipe in the kitchen sinks on every floor. They were on the site. So basically what we did was we ran pipe all the way through every floor. This is my soil stack. This is my vent stack. So every floor was the same. But in order to tie my kitchen sink from my soil stack to my vent stack, I had to basically do this. It's called a circuit vent. So basically, I cut a Y in, and then right in the middle, I put a T in. And then I put my trap. Then right at the top of that T, I tied it right back into the vent. So in the middle here, this is your sink or whatever, your kitchen sink. This will tie right into that. So now you have your venting and you have your soil. And you did that on every floor. We did it on every single floor, and that's what you call a circuit vent. There's another vent that they have. It's called the loop vent. A loop vent is a vent that you use when you're in like a wide open space and you have nowhere to hide your pipe. So say you have an island sink in the middle of your kitchen. And there's your floor, and you have some sort of sink coming in right there. Well, you can't typically run your vent straight through the counter of the island sink. You have to have somewhere to run it. So they had this thing called a loop vent. Basically what it is you have your drain here. And then you will come up and then you will loop it basically, and you will tie it back into your drain, but still have to vent it. So you will cut a T in there, and this will go probably behind a wall, whatever wall you can get to, and then you will vent that out. And then you typically put your T there and then pipe in your trap and everything. You would basically put your clean out on this side to clean out the pipe if need be, in case it gets clogged. Does anybody know why the drain goes up and back down into the drain? I'll tell you. If you have a backup. It would typically just go back down here before it goes through the vent. Cause it's hard to snake a vent than it is hard to snake a drain. If you would snake a vent, you would be all on the roof trying to figure out where that line is going to. And basically, this line is tying into other vents, so you would never get to that line of snake. So when you have a backup, it will just loop around here. And this cleanout is basically for if you have a backup. Before it gets to this part, you can take this off to try to drain some of that water down. And once you drain it down, it will level these two out on both sides. So that's basically what a loop vent is. It's kind of like venting where there's nowhere to vent. It's like I said, you're in a wide open spot and you don't have a wall to hide behind your vent behind, so you basically use a loop vent for that. Any questions? Anybody getting an idea of what vent is, what traps are used for? Alright, cool. I think that about covers it. Not too technical about it. Trying to make sure I covered it in the trap, yeah. Trap is really,
The only last one I saw was loop vent, you just covered it, so.
yeah. Alright.
So if you were putting in like a brand new bathroom, like into a house,
Yep,
would you tie into like all that other, like the vent?
yeah.
Or do you have to run like an entire new?
You would, okay, so basically if I was doing a bathroom, here's the thing. Alright, here's your sink. And here's your toilet. So you're asking me what I vent?
Yeah, like if I had an unfinished basement and I put in a brand new bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
like would I have to tie all that stuff into the existing vents? Or would I have to run a whole new vent?
Yeah. Yeah. And let's say you have a 2-inch vent line there. So basically you'll rough in everything, you'll tie your drains in.
Is that 2 inch gonna be sufficient though, or would you have to run?
2-inch would be sufficient, yep. You can run 2-inch through an entire home. I'm not really sure how many fixtures it is anymore, but it was, vanities are normally 1.5 inches, toilets are normally 2-inch, tubs are normally 1.5 inches. Wash machines and dryers are 2-inch. Basically all sinks are 1.5 inches. So basically the most that pours the most water is the toilet at the most speed, the most velocity.
Uses more water.
Yeah. So you would basically run this in a 2-inch pipe. So basically, this would be close enough to the vent stack. So let's say the vent stack is here. So I wouldn't have to vent that because it's so close to the vent stack. No, I said it's 4 times the pipe size. The sink, like I said, you would just come off the back of that T. Which is there. And you would just pipe that in. Now, you can take that pipe and run it over here and tie that in as well. And that'll vent your tub. But like I said, typically, a lot of these old homes, they won't even do this part. Mostly all homes never do this part. All old homes never do that part. They'll just vent from here, and this toilet will be close enough to the vent stack to vent on its own. They basically will just use the bathroom sink to vent everything in that bathroom. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, this vent stack is not even close enough to the toilet it's too far away. So it'll pull air from the next closest fixture. So if you had to flush the toilet here, the next closest fixture is gonna pull air from is here. But if this is vented, like I said, if this is vented, you won't get that gurgling sound. You see what I'm saying? Because it has a vent here. If it didn't have a vent, it will pull from that track. It will pull that seal out that track.
So because my toilet was making that gurgling sound, that means my shower doesn't have a vent?
Pretty much, yeah.
God
Yeah. I actually just did a guy's house.
damn. New construction nowadays.
He had a second floor, he had a toilet. And his drain for his toilet came down to the first floor, all the way down to the basement. Then, okay, so that's the basement. And that was his kitchen. So then he had a drain going to his kitchen sink. And it went over and tied into the main drain stack. This was not vented. It was vented up here probably, but it didn't matter. Once that water went all the way down here, at so much force, it's pulling out this track. Cause it's water now and then it's force and it still needs air. So it started pulling out of his kitchen sink, his trap seal. So it was pulling that little bit of water out and then he would get a gurgling sound coming out. And then it was, you could tell it's been doing it for a while because he had a little weird smell. It smelled like sewer gas, it was just a weird smell. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's probably what it is. But after we investigated his entire house because he had an unfinished basement, if you go down the basement, you could see there was nothing it could be vented to. Because his pipe didn't go behind his wall, it came through his floor. So when it came through his floor, it just went over in 90 and teed right in here. So every time you flush that toilet, that sink will gurgle. Because it's pulling that trap seal. So that's another example of.
So you going into the house, how would you fix that?
Oh yeah. I'm glad you asked. Good question. They have mechanical venting devices called Studevents. It's a little device. It kind of looks like that a little bit, something like that, like a mushroom off of Mario. If you are at a kitchen sink and it's not vented, what you can do is, okay, I'm trying to figure out the best way to draw this. You have your trap coming down here. And then your pipe goes, wherever it goes down there. You can put your Studevent right here. It can be below the flood level room, which is the flood level room is the flood level of the sink where it overflows. So it can be below that. So you would basically put it right there. What the Studevent does, it has like a little flap inside of it. So once this water starts rushing down, it pulls air, and that flap goes down so it can pull air inside of it. And then it springs back up to keep the sewer gases inside of it. I'm glad you asked that, because I forgot all about that. But that's typically what you would do. It's better using this than running a vent and tearing up a guy's wall and sealing in his entire house. So yeah. Another thing that's illegal, illegal in 50 states is S-traps. You have your sink. It'll look like that. Basically what it does, you can't vent this, and once you, spill water down this drain, it causes siphonage, and it will suck all the water out that trap. I remember state criminal code, they are illegal. Typically, when you see those in older homes, if you're not servicing it, you don't have to borrow it. If you are servicing it, you have to remove it, and you have to use that student vent. They try to come up with ways where they can do it, where you would vent here. But, once you push in that water, the air is in front of the water. So by the time it gets here, it's still pushing all the water up the trap. It's not gonna serve a purpose. So that's that. So you can't use P traps. I mean S traps, I'm sorry. P traps you can use, S traps you cannot use. If you're in a home, normally if you see them coming through the wall, they're right. If they're coming through the floor, they're wrong. Because when they're coming through the floor, it's just going down to a piping and it's not being vented at all. So if it's coming through the floor, it's wrong. It's typically wrong. If it's coming through the wall, it's right. That's how I normally remember. When I first started doing plumbing, you know when you see it through the floor, it's wrong. If it's coming through the wall, it's right. Because basically what it's saying is, behind this wall, you have a T for your drain and one for your vent. When you're going through the floor, all it's probably doing is going to more pipe, more draining pipe. This on a horizontal. So that's typically wrong. Can't do it that way. I'm trying to think, is there anything else? About this?
If you add a bathroom into the basement and put a grinder pump on it, how's that affect the vent?
A grinder pump has a vent built into it,
Okay.
where you would pipe everything to the grinder pump, and you have a part where it goes to the outside, and then you have a part where it vents.
Okay.
So you would just pipe out for your venting, you would pipe to it, and you would pipe to your sewage or whatever you can drain it to. So that's what that does.
Okay.
A lot of people use those in basement that has finished floors and stuff like that because it's a lot of work to dig up all that concrete and try to run pipe under the ground.
Nobody
run
wants to do
vents
that in
and
their
all.
house.
Yeah, you just have everything exposed. You'll see all the pipe and running toward and all that stuff. But it's typically it.
Will, if you were a plumber and you're doing an install,
Mm-hmm.
and what would prevent somebody from just putting Studer vents on every fixture and say screwing, put in venting? Is the Studer vent just too expensive to versus the price of all the piping to run the vent?
Well, basically, student vents has to be, I did say student vents are mechanical devices, meaning they can
Right,
fail.
so they can fail.
So, if you do put them everywhere, which you could,
Right.
you gotta have access to it. So if you have it behind a wall here and you have it sitting there, you gotta have some sort of access to it to
Right.
service it, to change it out, because they do fail.
So you might with the sink, but not for the bathtub. You can't get to the,
Yeah. Like I said, you got a wall there and your sink is there. You can put it behind a wall, or like I said, they can go below the flood level around, as long as it's pulling air and not emitting sewer gases. Same for a toilet. you can just put it right behind that wall there.
You seal it up inside a wall, isn't it a star for air?
That's
Seal
why
it
you gotta
up.
have access to it, and you gotta give it space. I can't remember what the space was, but it doesn't need that much space. All you just gotta do is pour air. As long as you don't have like insulation around it, something that covers it up, yeah, it'll be fine. I actually did one, I was working on this restaurant downtown. And what I did was, it was in a basement, a brick basement. And they had, them deep cleaning sinks. And I had to run a vent up for it. So basically what I did is the framing of the studs, I just put 2 studs here and I boxed it in. And then the pipe ran up. I just put it there. So once they put the drywall and stuff up, they left this part open and I just put a little door there. That way they can get to it. Student vents are like a last resort. You typically don't wanna keep using, you don't wanna pipe your whole house in with student vents. You wanna do venting because don't nobody wanna keep buying student vents at the
I
student
would
vents
imagine
all the
on
time.
the new construction that the plumbing inspector would fail it anyway.
Yeah, he would fail it, cause he would see like, nah, we not doing this, we need this house to have some longevity and stuff like that. You got student vents everywhere, that's not gonna work. But yeah, it's definitely, like I said, I don't remember what the actual space around the student vent has to be, but
As long
as
as
long as
it's
it pulls air,
Yeah.
it'll work fine. Yeah. Any more questions? All right, thank you guys.
Good job.